Did You Know presents Mom Burst into Tears When She Finds Out Why Her Son's Grave is Green. Losing a loved one is tough. Whether you knew them your whole life or gotten taken away too soon, the pain you feel is never ending. But in rare instances, a kind gesture from a loved one, a friend, or a perfect stranger can lessen that pain. Just ask this family who received an unexpected act of compassion from another mourner. Raymond and Rachel had to go through a hard time. Their son, U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Joseph, died when he was just 36 years old. Before he passed away, he had served his country proudly. After his death, Joseph's parents had to do something that no parent should ever have to do. They were forced to bury their son. Most parents expect, and they even hope, that they will go before their children. It's just the way that life is supposed to work. When things don't work out that way, it's devastating for many people. Losing a loved one changes their lives forever. Raymond and Rachel made it a point to visit their son's grave often. When the weather started getting very cold, they didn't visit for a while. When the weather warmed up, though, they went back to their son's grave. And when they got there, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The ground all over the cemetery was brown. It had died over the winter, and it wasn't warm enough yet for it to grow back. There was some lush green grass in the cemetery, and it was right at Joseph's grave. Rachel couldn't understand why her son's grave was green, and she burst into tears when she learned the truth behind it. At first, Rachel thought it was a miracle. How else would the grass be green only around this one grave? When they found out later that there was a reason the grass was green there's a man named Jake Rising. He's an 86-year-old man who had recently lost his wife while bringing flowers to his wife's grave. He saw a young woman in tears. He was sitting in front of the grave. When Jake came by, he sat down with her and found out that Joseph was her brother. She told him that he was taken from her too soon. He was her only sibling, and he was her best friend. While they were growing up, and even after they grew to be adults, her grief took Jake's breath away. His heart went out to the woman, and he was able to spend 60 wonderful years with his wife, and that was not long enough. He felt bad for the woman who was breaking down in front of her brother's grave, who died too young. Joseph's sister thanked Jake for listening to her, and she told him that it had helped. After she left, Jake decided that he wanted to do something for this wounded, broken-hearted woman whose life was turned upside down by the loss of her brother. She had a hole in her heart. This was a hole that Jake knew all too well because he had a hole in his heart as well since his wife passed away. After thinking about Joseph, his sister, and his family, he had an idea. When Jake would go to his wife's grave to leave flowers, he would water the grass on Joseph's grave as well. He didn't want the grass around his wife's grave to be brown and dead like the grass all over the rest of the cemetery. He decided that each day when he watered the grass around his wife's grave, he would water the grass around Joseph's grave as well. He figured that it was the least he could do for this grieving family. The first few times they visited the grave, they were sure that it was a miracle that the grass looked so green and lush. After talking to their daughter and to Jake, they found out how the grass was getting so green, and they were incredibly moved. They couldn't believe that this elderly man would take the time to water the grass to keep it green when he didn't even know their family. When they found out about Jake's kindness, they thanked him and let him know how much they appreciated the fact that he was watering the grass on their son's grave. Rachel says that it may not have been a miracle that the grass was green. However, it was a miracle that there was someone out there who was so kind. Rachel says that there are not too many people in the world like Jake today. Most people are too caught up in their own lives and their own pain to help someone else. Jake is the exception. When Jake saw their daughter in crisis, he did what he could to help and make her grief adjust a little bit easier. Jake says that helping out this family and just this tiny way made him feel a little bit better too. He also said that his wife would have loved what he was doing because she was always looking out for others as well. He believes that both his wife and Joseph are both looking down from heaven. Happy that he is taking the time to care for their graves and for Joseph's family. The story is so touching that after Rachel posted this on Facebook, it quickly went viral. People all over the world were touched by the kindness of this old man.